I want to welcome you to the Retro Rogues Live. Please pay attention to our warning graphic. It states that the Retro Rogues Live show is intended for an adult audience and not intended for children under the age of 13. Parental discretion is advised. Again, I want to welcome you here to the show. My name is Dave Beatty. I am one of your hosts. On tonight's show, we're going to be talking about Venom, Captain Kirk going to space, and a Russian movie being filmed in space. That and so much more on tonight's episode of the Retro Rogues Live. And as I said, I am one of your hosts. For nearly the last 30 years, I've been a professional illustrator and graphic designer, worked on a lot of fun things that some people have heard of, such as Batman Incorporated, Justice League of America, and even Superboy and the Legion of Superheroes. But enough about that. And welcome back, as always, my great co-host. This is Mr. Eric Alexander. Eric, please tell the folks, hopefully watching or listening at home, some of the fun things you have worked on as a creative professional.
Yes, hello everyone. I'm Eric Alexander, also known as Bass God 14. That's Bass God 14, not Bass God. That's Bass God, like a bass guitar. And I am the co-host of the Retro Rogues Live. I'm also the chief financial officer of Bad Bob Productions, which is a film production company located in Arizona. Currently, I am the executive producer on a film called Staycation, which has been filming primarily on location in California, but also all over the world via Zoom.
Very cool. And actually, the kind of sort of prequel teaser, I guess, for that routine, I saw Russ Emanuel post that actually it just won an award at a international short film festival in Madrid, Spain, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, it's actually that's definitely worth talking about because Routine is Staycation is technically a sequel to Routine, which is a short film that is currently out there on the film festival circuit. And Russ Emanuel, the director, he's the director of both films, Routine and Staycation. He's been pushing it pretty darn hard, pretty darn hard. He's really been out there putting a lot of festivals, and they recently had a screening. I'm not sure if you were aware of this, but he posted this. In fact, let's see if I can share this. I would like to share this actually. Recently had a screening, and here we go. There's Russ's account. All right, can you see these pictures here? You able to see that, Dave?
Yeah, I can see them. Yeah.
Okay, so this is actually from like the first scene of Routine. This is the Horrible Imaginings Film Festival, and as you can see, this is an actual live theater with actual people in it. And I thought you'd get a kick out of this. There you go, Dave. Your work there on the big screen once again.
Very cool. Very cool. Yeah, this is a fun project to be a part of. I mean, I had just a small part of it, but I am very proud of it. So
Yeah, it looks great too. I think it looks really good. And of course, this is just Russ sitting there probably with his phone, taking a picture of the screen to show that that they're doing a live screening. But I, I had the privilege myself at the Chandler Film Festival of actually seeing your work on the big screen. It looked awesome at Harkins Theater in Chandler. I don't think you've had the pleasure of seeing your own work on the big screen yet, have you, Dave?
I haven't. I have not.
but I have, and I think it's cool that Rush shared that as well. But that film has been accepted at a large number of film festivals and has been doing really well as far as the awards. Anybody, if you follow Russ's Facebook or you follow his Twitter, which I definitely advise you to do so. He's a friend, and obviously we're both involved with him and his film productions. You'll see all the awards he's been winning. I mean, it's crazy. He's constantly winning awards at these things for this movie. And I've said it before, and I'll say it again. The film itself is very simple. It was actually filmed during the lockdown, so they were very, very limited. That's why there's only one actor. In fact, that was part of the idea was, hey, what can we do during the lockdown? Russ was going stir crazy. He had his friend Emmanuel Harris, who's also his director of photography. He's also the writer of Staycation. So it was just the three of them. They did this very short scene, and because they were so limited, they needed more. They needed more to tell even this very, very simple story. And what they ended up doing, of course, was they got Dave involved. And what's giving this movie so much attention and why it is winning awards is it really is an experimental film, because the images like a lot of times you'll see images after a movie, especially Marvel movies do it a lot, where you'll see all this great imagery after the movie, you know, these different versions of the characters and all that kind of stuff. But it's just something that's cool. It has nothing to do with telling the story. And the images that you see, you know, at the end of the film during the credits, that are the images that Dave did, and you just saw one right now, they really tell the rest of the story. And without it, you don't understand the rest. You don't get the rest of the story. So I think that's one of the reasons it's got a lot of attention, because people do know it was filmed during the lockdown, and because it really is like an experimental film.
We do have some people in members of the Rogues Gallery in the chat.
Yeah, it looks like Asia's in the house. She says hello, darlings, and we will
Hi,
say
Asia.
hello back to you, Asia. Hollywood Jackson's also in the house. He says hello,
Hi, Hollywood.
guys. It's good to see you, Hollywood. And Mott's is here. It's good to see you, Mott. Mott says hello. And
Hi,
Asia
David.
says you guys are on the freeway with me doing about 75 miles an hour. Asia, if that's the case, I hope you just have us on audio and you stop typing until you're not moving anymore, because we do not want you to get into an accident. That's for sure.
Yes, please be careful.
Listening to us in the car is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But you should probably just be listening if that's the case.
So on tonight's episode, we are going to be talking about Venom. I played at the beginning of the show. And then we are going to continue our experimentation to see how well this works. And I am going to attempt to draw Venom while we are talking over the course of the show. And what's different, which is why my lighting looks so weird, is because I have my Surface Pro is sitting here in front of me, and that's that light that you see reflecting up on my face and everything in a very unflattering manner. I've been trying to see if there was something I could do with the other lights, but I can't. It's just going to be a horrible shot. But anyhow, this is the Surface Pro right here. You can see where my hand is. And this is a stylus. It's just like a pen. It is pressure sensitive, but it's not as pressure sensitive as like a Wacom or a Wacom, whatever you want to call it. But as we go through the news stories and talk about things, I'm going to attempt to draw Venom live while we are talking. It's just going to be kind of a headshot like we did last time, because I'm a little nervous, and I don't mind being adventurous to an extent, but it's better if we could do something that's more controlled until we have a better sense of how it's going to work. So,
and again, for people that may not be aware, or maybe you forgot, so we are going through some format changes here. We're going to be revealing a new character, a new stories, basically a new intellectual property created by myself, Dave, and also my partner, Robert McVeigh. We're going to be revealing that stuff very soon. And right now we're trying to get the kinks out and figure out which way to do this. So those of you, especially those of you that did see last week's episode, let us know if you prefer this format that we're going to be revealing. In fact, we can show you a little bit right now, this format as opposed to what we did last week. So last week, basically, Dave actually had a camera, over paper that he was inking, right? So that was the setup that we had last week. And if you missed it, please check out the rerun, and you can always comment, and you can let us know what you thought of that format as opposed to this one, because this is the time for us to make mistakes, folks. We would rather make mistakes now than make it later when we're actually revealing, our new characters, because there's enough pressure revealing a new character. And so we don't want to have technical problems at the same time. Although technical problems will happen regardless, we're trying to minimize that. And we'd like to know your feedback. Which format do you think is better? So this is going to be the format that we're going to be using tonight. Again, it's different for those of you that maybe missed it. Again, check it out. The format we used last week, Dave basically had a camera right over a piece of paper, and he was inking it right in front of our eyes. This is different. Now he's basically on his. I'm sorry. What was the device that you're using, Dave? Again?
it's a Surface Pro.
So he's on a Surface Pro, and he's using a stylus. So this is like all digital as opposed to the format that we used last time, which kind of combined modern technology, if you will, with a very classic, traditional way of inking. So that's going to be the big difference today. So for you folks that are not aware, now the reason that we're picking this particular character is because you might have heard that he's been in the news lately. So I'm going to talk about this article real quick so that you have some context for why it is that we decided to use Venom as our character today for today's test. So this is a Deadline article. This is dated October 6th, so pretty recent. It says, Venom, Let There Be Carnage crosses $100 million at the box office in 5 days. Ties Shang-Chi for fastest during pandemic. And did I pronounce that right, Dave? Because I think, isn't there controversy about how you're supposed to pronounce that?
Yeah, I think you're supposed to pronounce it Shang-Chi now. And
Shang-Chi now?
we did disable the drawing board view when you switch to the news story.
Yeah, that'll just be briefly.
Okay,
then we'll go back to it.
All right, cool. I'm going to stop until we get through the news story then.
So this is also very brief. So it says Sony's Venom Let There Be Carnage has feasibly crossed $100 million in 5 days at the pandemic domestic box office, joining Disney, Marvel's Shang-Chi and The Legend of the Ten Rings as the fastest title to do so. Both titles are now on a theatrical window exceeding 45 days. Should be noted that while Shang-Chi propelled past the century mark off Labor Day Monday, Venom 2 sped to the benchmark sans a holiday. Impressive. Also, Venom Let There Be Carnage beat 2018's Venom to 100 million. The latter pulling that off in 6 days after an $80.2 million opening. The running US and Canadian take for Venom Let There Be Carnage stands at 102 million. So I guess that does not include the international box office. That's pretty impressive, Dave. I actually was not aware of that Venom Let There Be Carnage actually reached the $100 million mark before the original Venom. Now, traditionally, that wouldn't be a big surprise. That happens with sequels a lot. But in the quote unquote pandemic era, I think that's kind of surprising. Does that surprise you, Dave?
It does surprise me a little bit, but I at the same point, Carnage, which we know from the trailers, Carnage is in the movie. That's not a spoiler. Carnage is a very popular villain, a very popular character, just like Venom is. So you have two extremely popular Spider-Man, villains, in this movie, and Carnage is one that's never been on the big screen before, as far as I know. So,
yeah, that does make a lot of sense. It still surprises me, just because it goes against what everybody's telling us. I mean, you have all these movies that are being delayed, constantly being delayed. And here you got a very good example of maybe why they shouldn't be. You know what I mean?
right.
Because it's just interesting because that excuse constantly seems to be put out that, we've got this variant, blah, blah, blah. We can't go to the movies anymore. People are still going to the movies, folks. They are. If they want to see it, if it's got the right buzz, if that hype machine is in drive, you got the evidence right there. The fact that Venom 2 actually, in terms of actual, box office receipts, has already exceeded, where the original Venom was at this point in time. That tells you something. Now, that doesn't tell us whether it's going to beat out the original Venom overall. That's still something that has to be determined. But it definitely shows you that you can have a successful movie release right now. It's possible. You can definitely do it. And I think that's good news for theaters. I hope studios notice that. But I will mention this as well, and this is something to keep in mind, especially with the streaming wars, because we do a lot of streaming wars coverage on the show. It's important to remember that Sony, of course, their movies are exclusively theatrical, right? Because Sony doesn't have a streaming platform. They gave up Crackle a while ago. In fact, I wasn't even aware of that until one time Dave and I were talking about, and Dave's like, I'm pretty sure it's Sony Soul Crackle. And sure enough, they did. So Sony doesn't have its own streaming service at all at this point. So when they release something theatrically, it's released theatrically. They don't have, unlike Shang-Chi, for instance, which was still on that Disney premium service that I tell everybody to have nothing to do with, because, again, I do not like the idea of having to pay, a monthly fee, and then on top of that having to pay some sort of quote unquote premium fee for new movies. I hate that model. Go with one or the other. There is video on demand. That is a thing. You go to Apple, or Google or whatever. There's all these different places you can go. Even YouTube does it now. You can download or rent a movie or something like that. That's fine. That's a fine. That's one model. The other one is subscription based. I don't like the mixing of the two because I don't like paying extra money. I just don't like doing it. So Mott says, as far as I guess the response of Venom 2, he says it's probably because people are itching to get out. And I think that is true to a certain extent. It depends on the market that you're in. In Arizona, for instance, theaters have been open for quite a while. But in places like California and New York, it is kind of newish, I guess, to have the theaters open. But I think it's been at least a month or two. I mean, it's been a little while now. But I do understand that where you're coming from, Mats. I think there are people that have been going that extra mile and still haven't gone out. And maybe now they're finally deciding to go out. I mean, that definitely, I could see that happening. Asia has a request. Asia says, give.
Okay, so I'm not sure. Can anyone still hear me? Because it looks like Eric has locked up, or maybe I've locked up and I can't. Can anyone still hear me? All right, it looks like I am. Am I frozen or? Okay, so I'm still good again. Okay. All right. Well, here we go again, everybody. All right, so I guess, yeah, Eric just dropped. Okay. All right, so Asia says, give him a long tongue for me, Dave. Yes, I'm still driving. I'm using, yes, Asia, he will have a very long tongue. And let's see here. Eric is gone. Dave is still here. Hollywood says he can hear me. Okay, so I'm just going to, I guess we'll do this like last time. I guess this is now Dave's comic book Bob Ross challenge until Eric gets back. So I will continue to move ahead here. I think I just got a text having an internet problem. Okay, all right. Well, I'm going to keep going. So that squeaking you hear is my chair. I need to oil it, but I just never do to try and prevent it from making weird noises. But okay, so anyhow, you can see what I'm doing. I know we were talking about drawing music, please. I wish I had some music, but the problem is with YouTube is that you got to be careful with that because they don't like for you to play music. It seems like. All right, so see, I'm not sure what that I said. Oh, MVP. Oh, well, that's nice for you to say. Okay, so while we wait for Eric to get back, I'm going to continue to draw here for your amusement, and I will. I'm trying to remember. Let's see here. So Asia said that she wanted a long tongue. I was already going to give him a long tongue, but now will be even a little bit more extreme since we've had a request. All right, so how do we feel about that? Is that too much? Anyhow. All right. Okay, so my main influences when I think of Venom, I do think primarily of let's see, Todd's original version, so it's going to probably be definitely heavily inspired by that. And then the thing that's nice about the Surface Pro, Asia says, okay, so Hollywood says, yes, you did write for us. You did write us the song, Hollywood, and I greatly appreciate that. Play it all you want to. And I was hoping that Eric would have gotten in touch because he handles all that kind of stuff on the show. I'll ask him again, Hollywood. Aisha says it's not too much for me. Okay, that's good to know. And then we've got a smiley face from Dave Motz. Okay, I'm going to keep going here. All right. Okay. So as I was saying, Todd McFarlane is probably my biggest kind of influence. That and maybe Eric Larson are who I tend to think of for Venom. So that's going to be sort of the style and the approach that I'm going for here. And I'm going to try and make him kind of really kind of cool and kind of menacing looking and but I will be taking some kind of liberties with him because he is kind of more of a creature than a human. But I kind of like that where, Todd always used to say when he talked about like, the things that made comics cool was the fact that, you could have a guy with a 50-foot cape that would never work in the real world. But it looks cool for a comic, right? So we're going to be taking some liberties based off that basic concept. So what I did at first was my under drawing, kind of basing it out, and now we have a little bit tighter drawing. So let's see here. Okay, Eric's back. Hi, Eric. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me, Dave?
Yes, I can hear you.
Please let me know in the Rogues Gallery if you're hearing me okay. I actually had to reset my router. My entire internet just went poof, just went away. I no longer had an internet connection. Apologize for that. I had some technical difficulties as well last week. I don't know if it's, I don't really think it's the router because the router is either going to work or it's not. And so we've been having, I think, some internet problems in my area lately. If you guys, I've been gone for a little bit, so if you have some comments out there that you didn't get on the air that you want to reiterate, please let me know, and I will try to get to your comments while Dave is drawing there. Kind of sucks to have a technical issue like this because the whole point is that while Dave is drawing, I'm the one that's supposed to be kind of talking and interacting with you folks, so that's kind of the idea here. So I apologize for those technical issues, but I will say this. I talked to Dave about this, behind, backstage earlier because of, obviously we're trying a different format and not sure if it's going to work out the way that we want or not, but this is the time for us to make mistakes. So this is the time for us to make mistakes. We don't want to make them when we're in the middle of our big reveal showing, the new stuff that we're working on. And it's, okay, so Asia, you said, I can hear you, Eric, broadcasting from Ironwood. And Motz, I will do my best. He said, don't let it happen again. I will do my best, Motz. I reset the router, so hopefully it's okay. Hollywood says you're okay, Eric, so I appreciate that. As long as you guys are hearing me good, hopefully that'll clear it up. Sometimes that's all you really have to do is just reset the router and you're good. For some reason it gets gummed up or however you want to term it. Let's see. I did see a comment earlier. I don't know if Dave you addressed it or not, but Hollywood suggested that we need some drawing music.
Yes.
And he mentioned, of course, that he has written some music for us. And Hollywood, we do need to talk about that. We definitely need to talk about that. That is an excellent point. And there is some music that Hollywood actually did write for us. And we need to get back to talking to him about possibly using that on the show because he does good stuff. Hollywood does some very good stuff. And I was actually very impressed by what he did. Again, if you have any other comments that maybe Dave just didn't get to while I was gone, just let me know. And I think I'll go ahead and talk about some more pop culture news, if that's okay, Dave.
Sounds good.
So I'm not going to bring up the actual article. That was actually good that kind of helps us with our tests, if you will, because we know now with this particular format that if I start to share an article with you on the screen, it's going to take away what Dave is sharing. We can't both share our screens apparently at the same time. I thought we could. Maybe there is actually a way we can do that, but right now I'm not aware of how to do that. So I'll be just talking about these articles that I have, and I will reference where the information is coming from. But I'm not going to share the actual article because I don't want to take away Dave's screen. So with that, let me go. I'm going to have to go over to my other tab so I can actually read the article. So I've got an article here, Tech Times. So for anybody that wants to find the actual article, it's from techtimes.com. And let's see what the date is. It's October 7th, so very recent article. Title reads, "A William Shatner AI will answer all your questions for the Star Trek actor." It says William Shatner, the Star Trek icon who will be going to space for real, thanks to Blue Origin, has partnered with Storyfile so that you can have a conversation with the actor powered by artificial intelligence. Shatner pre-recorded video responses used in the two-way conversation platform. When you ask the video of William Shatner a question, the system chooses the right answer among the responses he pre-recorded. William Shatner recently made headlines after it was announced that he would be one of 4 passengers of Blue Origin's second crewed flight. William Shatner, who is known for his role as Captain James T. Kirk in Star Trek, has worked with Storyfile to bring people a different kind of experience. The interactive two-way conversation is powered by AI. How exactly does it work? The first thing you have to do is head to the Storyfile website and look for William Shatner's video. Press the microphone icon and ask William Shatner a question. According to a report by Space, the system then swiftly selects an appropriate answer from the pre-recorded options, providing the response in real time. Shatner recorded his responses in a span of 4 days. His responses cover a variety of topics that people might ask questions about. It says, how did this become possible? So how did Storyfile make it possible for you to have a real-time conversation with William Shatner? According to the Space report, Conversa makes use of a natural language processing which interprets text and spoken words in the same way people do. The software is able to evaluate the question being asked based on its evaluation, select the appropriate response from the available options. Responses that the actor pre-recorded include the ones that cover his personal life. So again, it says William Shatner recently made headlines after it was revealed the actor who played Captain Kirk on Star Trek will actually get a chance to head to space for real. Shatner is one of the 4 passengers of Blue Origin's next crewed flight to space, which will launch on October 12th. This will make the actor the oldest person to ever fly in space at 90 years of age. So it's pretty interesting. So obviously, a lot of people consider Star Trek a groundbreaking show with its own place in history. Now, William Shatner is going to have another place in history as the oldest person to ever go into space at 90 years old. I just think that is incredible. It's an incredible time to be living, that's even possible. That's even something that we could be talking about. I think that's actually, amazing. So we got some comments here. Mott says, wow, he's 90. That's right. He's 90 years old. I actually did get a chance to see him briefly. I was at Star Trek Vegas, which now I call it the event formerly known as Star Trek Vegas because they lost the license. But they still have the event. They still had the event this year. They didn't have last year, by the way. It was canceled. But this year they did have it again. And William Shatner was there. And I didn't get to see much of him because I was actually trying to get in line for Kelsey Grammer. They actually had Kelsey Grammer's photo op time basically at the same time that William Shatner was speaking, which kind of sucked because it was like, oh, man. But I'd already paid for the Kelsey Grammer ticket. So I was only able to poke my head in. But it's just amazing to me because he was like sitting on a chair, but he is so kind of like, vibrant. you know, and the fact that the way he was able to interact with the crowd and everything like that, it's really impressive at 90 years old. He actually reminds me a lot of Stan Lee in that regard, because I remember being mystified seeing Stan Lee at events when he was like 90 plus, and you know how spry he was and how witty he was still, even you know when he was over 90 years old. So Shatner definitely reminds me of Stan Lee a lot in that regard. And I agree with you, Hollywood Jackson. He does look good for 90. There's no doubt about it. For 90, he definitely looks good. Mott says that he should wear his Star Trek uniform. I think they have a set suit that they have to wear. Mott. I think they have a, you know, for safety reasons and all that kind of stuff. I don't think they get to choose what they wear when they go into space. He could maybe wear it under his spacesuit, right? I guess he could do that. He could wear it under his spacesuit or something like that. And Hollywood, no, to answer your question, is Picard going with him? No, he is not. No Picard on this one. I know generally our answer to every problem in life is more Picard, but in this case, there will be no Picard at all. It does make me wonder. I have to admit, how should I phrase this? I'm not as big a fan of Patrick Stewart as I used to be. I'll just put it that way. But I am curious whether he would be interested in doing something like this as well. For people that aren't aware, by the way that the particular space vehicle that he's going on, New Shepard, I believe is what it's officially called. It's a suborbiter. So it basically, just like Alan Shepard, actually, you know, it goes up and then it just comes straight back down. It doesn't actually orbit the Earth, as opposed to some of you that are into space and things like that. Recently, SpaceX did a mission, which was like the first, basically like all civilian mission into space, where none of the people involved were professional astronauts, basically just there for the ride. You know, the ship did everything. They orbited, you know, they actually orbited the Earth, which was pretty significant, I thought, that recent mission that SpaceX did. SpaceX is definitely kind of like ahead of the curve of just about everyone, other than maybe the Russians, who of course have been tried and true, whether you have any issue with them politically or anything like that. Their program has been pretty tried and true for a very long time. They've been using that Soyuz capsule for a long time, and it's been pretty reliable, with some exceptions here and there. And we are going to be talking about the Russians. Oh, Asia, you had a good recommendation. I recommend just putting a link to the article in the chat. I like that recommendation, so I'm going to do that. So let me copy it. I will copy the article. And this is not spam. This is based on Asia's suggestion. So I'm going to ahead and sharing the article that I was just referencing regarding William Shatner's trip into space, and also this AI thing. I wanted to cover the AI because I believe we did actually cover that in a previous episode. We talked about William Shatner becoming an AI, that was something that was already on the drawing board. At that time, I don't think we knew how it was going to work. So at least now we kind of know how it's going to work. Basically, it's these pre-recorded responses. And then what the software does is it interprets your question the best it can to give you the quote unquote appropriate answer. So it's not going to be like, you know, they somehow downloaded, William Shatner's personality into an AI, and it's able to interact with you as if it was really a real person and able to give like natural responses. For any of you that have an Alexa, I do. And I think it's always interesting because Alexa literally will give you a completely different answer depending on how you phrase the question. You know, so I always think that's kind of funny. So it's like you'll ask. Literally, I've had the experience of asking Alexa something. It gives me an answer, and I didn't quite, comprehend what it said. Like it was a long answer, and I'm like, wait a second, I need to hear that again. And I'll say the same question, but I'll say it slightly differently. Like, in other words, I don't use the exact same verbiage. And the next thing I know, it's telling me, I don't know that. And I was like, you just answered that question literally 5 seconds ago, but because I changed like one word, now you don't know the answer anymore. So apparently that's not the way that this AI based on William Shatner is going to work. It's going to be pre-recorded responses, and it's just going to give you the best response based on your question. I'm sure there's some people that'll have some fun with that, with asking William Shatner very weird, perverted, strange questions, and the AI will try to come up with the best answer based on what it's got. Asia mentions, I can have a complete conversation with my Google Assistant, as well as having it make restaurant reservations for me. I have not used Google Assistant very much. I mean, I have used it a little bit on my phone. Sometimes, actually, if I'm driving or something like that, or otherwise I just can't be typing for some reason. I have actually used Google Assistant before. I think usually just for like directions or something like that. Like I'll just say, hey, where's the nearest restaurant or something like that. But I haven't used Google Assistant a lot. I'd be curious to know, especially if for folks that have used both Alexa and Google Assistant, which one you think is better. I guess we could throw Siri into the mix too, if any of you used that. I actually did use Siri a little bit when it first came out, but now I don't have an Apple phone. I have a Google phone. And Asia goes on to say, it's crazy. He will actually say, I'm pretty, say my name correctly, and tell me a joke. That's definitely getting into like the sci-fi territory for sure. That's pretty interesting. That does show some personality. But alas, that's not what the Shatner AI is going to do. But I do think it's crazy that this event is happening. I mean, it's going to happen next week. I mean, Dave, I know that you're intensely into your drawing right now, but don't you think that's crazy that next week, Captain Kirk is going to space for real?
Yeah, I think that's really cool. And it is crazy to me the more I think about it, that we've come, kind of that far. I remember as a kid, there was a book, I can't remember the name of it now, that I read in school, and it was about this wasn't Lost in Space. I'm about to say a family living on the moon, but it was about a family on the moon, but it wasn't like a Lost in Space thing at all. It was something just completely different. And I remember thinking, because it was very kind of science based and fact driven, and was purporting to be kind of real, right? And I always thought like how crazy science fiction that was, and if we would ever really get there, and it's crazy to me that it looks like, we're getting closer to there all the time. So
Yeah, it is amazing. I mean, and the fact that you have all these different platforms that are emerging. Virgin has also had a successful flight, obviously, suborbital. And I kind of like the Virgin technology just because it's the closest to an actual like space plane. It's not
yeah,
just a rocket. I mean, I dig the rocket thing. I mean, I do. I never thought we were going to see like classic Buck Rogers in real life, and that's what we're doing. Because these rockets can actually land. I never thought that was actually going to happen. I never thought that was something that anybody would even try. But that's what we got. Both SpaceX and then also the New Shepard vehicle both do that. The rocket actually lands, which I think is really, really neat. It's really interesting. And obviously the government programs, I think, never even thought about trying to do that, because that is one thing when you're dealing with kind of quote unquote unlimited funds. I just let the booster burn up, or
okay,
in the case
easy.
of the what's that?
Calm down. Sorry, the dogs. I'm
No
here by
problem.
myself, and this gets difficult. I'm sorry. Hold on.
No
Calm
problem. No
down.
problem, Dave.
It's okay. It's okay.
That's funny. We were talking that backstage a little bit as well, but yeah, technical difficulties, people. They come in all shapes and sizes for us sometimes on the show. But yeah, I was wanting to say that I think it's kind of neat what Virgin's been doing. They're kind of under the radar right now with I guess I would call the big three independent companies that are doing space flights right now. Virgin, I think, is kind of interesting because they do have the space plane approach. Although I think the other approach that we see with New Shepard and also with Dragon, right? That's a SpaceX ship. The fact that the rockets actually land, I think, is really neat. And like, I don't think that was even ever considered really by either the Soviet Union or now the Russians or NASA. Like, they just were like, no. I mean, they did. I remember, the boosters did drop from the shuttle, and they would recover them in the water. I remember that. But I don't think they ever considered like the boosters actually like landing themselves, the way that they do with Dragon and New Shepard. I think that's pretty wild. That's pretty cool. But I also like that space plane approach. I missed the shuttle. I really would like to see that space plane approach used a little bit more. And let's see here. We had a couple comments. So Hollywood Jackson says that I should ask Google, how much Picard is too much? How much Picard is too much? Yeah, maybe I'll do that one of these days, Hollywood. And Mott's, you had something that would probably be a good viral video if somebody did that. Just throw them all in a room together and record what they talk about. So you got to get it going. Of course, that's the thing, Mott's, is they're not going to say anything unless you ask them something. So I wonder how you could do that, how you could somehow try to get them to start talking to each other. That would be interesting. I think that would be like, I wonder if anybody's ever done that. Like, because I think that would be like an interesting viral video or something like that, Mott's, if somebody was able to get all these different AIs like Siri, Google Assistant, and Alexa to talk to each other and ask each other questions. That would be kind of interesting. I should try to do that. Maybe that'll boost my numbers on my YouTube a little bit. And Dave Motz did have a comment about your drawing. He says it's looking good, Dave.
Oh, thank you.
And I agree, it is looking good.
It's a little rougher than, because usually when I do this, I kind of base it out, and then I'll usually do like a redraw and a cleanup. But it's we're already at 42 minutes, and I got to turn on the gas here if we're going to get where we need to be getting. So.
And I guess that's all part of the process too, Dave, is figuring out the time issue of how long this is going to take,
Right. Well, so and it'll be interesting too, because what we're doing is going to be kind of different than this, and it won't always be, what I mean, me drawing, I don't think.
No, we've already got some drawings that we were looking at just yesterday, so. And we'll be getting them to you folks soon. We're in the middle of some other discussions as far as basically, like I think we've mentioned, like we do have some interest in this new property being possibly a television show or a movie, toys, you name it. But the first thing, of course, we're going to look into is just seeing how we can make our characters literally come to life. And so we are in some consultations already that we're trying to figure that out, how feasible that is with where we're at right now. So just so you folks know, that's kind of where we're at with that. So hopefully when we launch, we'll already have sort of a plan to show you, okay, yeah, this eventually is actually going to be, live action as well. So that's what we're looking into, and we'll see how that all works out. And we just don't want to talk about it before, we've actually made the deal and it's actually something that's going to happen. Asia said, she's safe at home, guys. I will open you on my laptop. And she said, hi, Ripley. So that's good. I'm glad that you're safe and at home, Asia, because distracted driving kills people. It really does. It really does. And Mott says, is that Alexa, by the way, Mott? Clarify, is that Alexa, Siri, or Google Assistant? Because he says, mine's gone crazy. She talks to me without me asking questions. What I do with my Alexa is I have you can change the wake word, so I don't say Alexa, I say computer, because I think it's cool, because I'm a Trekkie. We were just talking about William Shatner. I am a Trekkie, and so my wake word is computer. In fact, I'm surprised it's not talking right now, because sometimes it can't hear me from where I'm at. That's even happened during the show before, where the Alexa starts to go off. But I watch a lot of Star Trek, so you can guess there's probably some fun things that Alexa does while I'm watching Star Trek sometimes when it picks things up. And Mott's did clarify that he's talking about Alexa. But yeah, if you use computer as your wake word, and you're a big Star Trek fan, it can be kind of fun and annoying while you're watching Star Trek sometimes, as far as what Alexa starts to say. I don't know if they allow that with the other ones. Again, I haven't used them enough to know if they allow that, for you to change the wake word. Because I think they kind of have to, right? Because they do allow that for, you can actually, I think you can even, you can actually, like, there's certain wake words that are just like options, but then you can actually like add your own. I know you can do that with Alexa. So I'd be curious if people have done that, because I think it can be kind of fun sometimes. All right, so we do have another article to get through, and I am going to continue to take Asia's advice on. I will share this one with you. Now, this one's actually an older article, but I liked all the information it had, because it gives more than just sort of the headline, if you will. It kind of tells you what's going on. So I said I was going to talk about this Russian film crew. So the article I just shared, this is from Variety. It is actually dated September 17th, so it is an older article, but it gives a lot of information. It says, Russian film crew beats Tom Cruise to lift off, Reddy's first feature shot in outer space. So this is the first feature ever shot in outer space. Obviously, documentaries and other films have been shot in space before, but this is the first feature. And they should really say like narrative feature too, I imagine, because there might be some documentary features that have been shot in space before by NASA or something like that. Or definitely there are documentaries, feature-length documentaries that have space footage in them. But this is the first narrative feature shot in space. And to put some background, of course, Tom Cruise has the same plan. We actually did talk about Tom Cruise's plan on this show previously, but these people beat them, so they need to be given their due. It says, more than 60 years after the Soviet Union beat the U.S. into orbit with the launch of its Sputnik satellite, a new space race is heating up between the two rivals. And once again, the Russians are claiming bragging rights with plans to produce the first feature film shot in outer space. This is ahead of Tom Cruise's upcoming $200 million space epic. The challenge is the story of a Russian doctor who's sent to the International Space Station to save the life of a cosmonaut. If all goes according to plan, the production team will lift off next month on a 12-day mission to pull off the historic first. Again, this is a dated article. They are already there, folks. They are already at the International Space Station. A collaboration between Russian space agency Roscosmos, public broadcaster Channel 1, and leading studio Yellow, Black, and White, the challenge will be directed by Klim Shipnikov. And I apologize if I'm pronouncing that incorrectly, but that's the best I can do. It says he had a blockbuster comedy, Son of a Rich, and that is Russia's highest grossing film of all time. So this is the director, apparently, of a Russian comedy that is Russia's highest grossing film of all time. The movie stars Yulia Pereslid. Again, apologize for butchering the name. A veteran screen and stage actor who was cast after a countrywide talent search last spring. Says the production team received a crash course in space travel earlier this year at the Yuri Gagarin Center for Cosmonaut Training. And on Thursday, a commission of medical and safety experts from the center gave the project approval to go ahead. It mentions that they were scheduled to blast off into orbit on October 5th in a Soyuz spacecraft that is piloted by a professional veteran cosmonaut. But that has since come to pass. That's already happened. I do have a little bit more recent article here. Let's see here. I'm going to go ahead and get that link to you. So we do have a little update on this story, which I think is pretty amazing. So this is from space.com, and this is a more recent article. This one's dated just 2 days ago. It says Russian film crew docks at space station to shoot movie in orbit. And it says a cosmonaut took manual control of their Soyuz to dock the spacecraft. I don't know if people were aware of this. It says a Soyuz spacecraft carrying a Russian film crew docked at the International Space Station today, that was October 5th, after a short flight from Earth to begin a 12-day movie shoot in orbit. 12 days. The Soyuz linked up with the space station at 8:22 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time after a 4-hour trip that began with a successful launch from Kazakhstan. The Soyuz ferried Russian actress Yuli Pereslid, director Kim Shipenko to the station along with veteran cosmonaut Anton. I'm not even going to try. Sorry. I'm not going to. I don't want to butcher this poor man's name, especially since he's an actual real cosmonaut. So we'll just call him Cosmonaut Anton, who commanded the capsule. So they will spend 12 days. The actress and the director will spend 12 days shooting scenes for a space film called The Challenge on the Station. And it goes on to say, the fast-track rendezvous sent the Soyuz on a 2-orbit trip around the Earth to reach the International Space Station, which it did completely automatically. The Soyuz was also expected to dock itself at the Earth-facing module on the station, but a communications issue forced Anton, the cosmonaut, to take manual control of the capsule to dock the spaceflight. They said that there were scenes filmed for the movie during the approach. So they actually did film this, and it says this prompted jokes from the Russian flight control team that said the last-minute drama was staged to add suspense to the plot. Did you hear that, Dave? So I thought that was pretty interesting. I don't think a lot of people knew that happened, but apparently the cosmonaut, the professional cosmonaut, actually had to take manual control for the docking, which is very rare. Like I don't know if a dragon you can even do that. Like I've been wondering about that. Like if a dragon you can, I know you can't on the New Shepard. The New Shepard is completely automatic, so there is like no manual control. Right. And apparently, these Soyuz is a much older spacecraft, but apparently the cosmonaut actually did have to take manual control of the ship to dock it. And I think it's funny that the ground crew was joking. Okay, you guys staged that for the movie. That's just drama for the movie.
Yeah.
But that's pretty amazing. It's pretty amazing. It's amazing to me to think that that's still happening, because if anything, it's been kind of, in a way, it's a little disappointing sometimes to realize that more and more people going into space are just passengers. They are not astronauts. You know what I mean? They
Right.
don't have anything to do with piloting the craft or anything like that. Like I said, I know with the New Shepard, I don't think there is even manual control of the craft. It's 100% automatic. In fact, I know with the New Shepard, because I did some research for talking about this stuff. With the New Shepard, I know it's actually autonomous, so it doesn't need communication with ground control at all to function. In other words, it just does what it does. It's programmed into it. It just does its flight path, and that's it. You know what I mean? Of course, New Shepard just goes up and down. That's all. It's a suborbiter.
Right.
So it just goes up and down. There's no pilot. Virgin, of course, they have more of a space plane kind of configuration where it's, they have a smaller. The rocket is basically attached to an actual airplane that lifts it up into the air, and then it flies off. Those are pilots. They use pilots for that, professional pilots. And then I don't know what Dragon does exactly. I kind of wondered about that as I was even watching that first manned mission with NASA, where NASA used the Dragon. I was wondering if those controls really actually do anything, or if it's just basically monitors to make the astronauts feel a little bit better. So. But I think it's neat that the Soyuz, I mean, it's been around since like the 70s, and they're still using this thing. And apparently, this cosmonaut had to manually dock his ship for this movie. And of course, it's like the ground control people said, it's only going to make the movie better to have that little bit of drama of the manual. So it's kind of neat. So you're actually mixing life with fiction, because this is a fictional story. The challenge is again about this. The idea is that basically an astronaut gets sick on the International Space Station, and for whatever reason, they can't just bring the cosmonaut or astronaut back down, so they have to send a doctor to perform like surgery in space. I actually think it's an interesting concept for this feature film, but it's because of the environment that they're filming in. There's going to be a lot of reality in this narrative film, in this fictional film. So I'm looking forward to it. I don't know if you had heard much about it, Dave. I don't know if the Rogues Gallery had heard much about it, but I'm pretty excited about this movie, The Challenge.
I did see a news article about it a little while ago, and it did intrigue me. I didn't follow it up just because um, I'm stupid busy right now, but I did see like an image from it, and I thought it was kind of cool. I think it's neat that you're bringing it up to talk about here on the show.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I mean, with everything else going on, and of course we did talk about the Tom Cruise project a while back
Right.
when it was first announced, and I think it's fair to give this other crew their due because they did beat him, and
Yeah.
they are doing this, and they are doing it as we speak. I mean, this is something that's happening right now, folks. They are orbiting above us, filming this movie, and I think again, what an amazing time to live, and just what an amazing thing that's going on. Asia had a comment. She said, "This is amazing. Considering the movie Apollo 13 had to be filmed in planes, I would think you would want a manual override at all times. 2001: A Space Odyssey. Anyone? What a great point. See, look at how life and fiction are starting to merge. What a great point there you have. But yeah, the Apollo 13 that was filmed right in the Vomit Comet, right? That's what they call it. It's the plane that NASA uses to train astronauts, where they are able to simulate zero gravity or microgravity, whatever the proper term is, by having the plane basically go up and down. And so you achieve weightlessness for a very short period of time. And that's actually how Apollo 13 was shot, which I thought was revolutionary. I thought that was amazing when I found that out. I was like, oh, that wasn't a trick. They were actually weightless, if you will, or simulating weightlessness. I can only imagine. I mean, they called it the Vomit Comet for a reason. I don't think I would have been able to do that. I would have gotten sick beyond belief. And regarding the manual overdrive, Asia, the issue, of course, with the manual overdrive, I think, is that you're having people go into space that aren't professional astronauts. That's what's happening right now. So we just had it with Dragon, right? That just happened. And that was an orbital flight. I think they actually orbited the Earth like 3 times, something like that. And not a single one of them was an actual real astronaut. So they were just there for the ride, and that's kind of where we're going, which, for better or worse, that's the way they're going. Like I said, I know the New Shepard for a fact because I looked it up. It's fully autonomous, and it's all on board. So it doesn't even have to communicate with ground control. Whereas I think Dragon might, but I'm not sure. I don't know enough about Dragon. But the New Shepard, that's the spacecraft that Shatner is going to be on, that one's just fully autonomous. So everybody on there is basically just there for the ride. And to a certain extent, that's the way that the space program has been for a while. But they did, because you had pilots, that were these original astronauts, especially on the American side. They did still incorporate manual controls, which is something that I think is more and more they're trying to get away from for whatever reason. But 2001 is definitely a good example of why you might want to have a manual override on your spaceship. You know what I mean? It might be a good idea. So
Yeah, open the pod bay doors, Hal.
The one that I really like actually is Airplane 2. Do you remember Airplane 2, Dave?
It's been a long time.
This is highly irregular. I love that. You got it. That's an underrated film. You've got to see Airplane 2 if you've never seen it, because they do a whole thing with the AI on the ship and everything like that, and the main character trying to override it. It's pretty funny.
Another memorable Shatner performance as well.
That's right. Hey, it's all
bringing it all together.
Yep, it's all just the great circle of life. And then Asia goes on to say, well, if my self-driving car goes Decepticon, I need to be able to wrestle with it. That's funny too, Asia, because that again, with art imitating life and all that kind of stuff, they are talking about these fully autonomous cars that won't even have a steering wheel. That's actually, I think that's already happened. I think I saw one in Estonia where they have that, and it's not like it's not super common, but it is like an autonomous car, and there is no driving There's no driving. There is no. You cannot take control of that car. There's no way to. It's you're a passenger, you know. And I do think those things are controversial. I really do. I think there is some reason for pause with those kinds of things. Say, is this really what we want to do? We're really sure we want to do this? You know, there are reasons for doing it in space. I understand that, but I don't know if you need to do that with your car or not. The fact that you can't literally there is no steering wheel. And Hollywood did send us a link. So he said, here's your theme song, hasn't been published yet, so no YouTube issues. Thanks, Hollywood. Really appreciate that. Appreciate that a lot. So definitely take a look at that. Although I might have an issue with taking a look at that. And Hollywood says, as far as your work is going here, Dave, he says, looking good. It's looking good. Asia asks if we've seen the Tesla robot. She says, I am intrigued and concerned. I have. Well, first of all, there is no Tesla robot yet. I mean, it was just a mock-up. I hope people understand that it wasn't real. But I do understand the concept. And I kind of like it. I think it's an interesting concept. You know, I think it's funny that he specifically Elon Musk said that the robot is basically too weak to actually overpower a human being, and it's too slow for you to not be able to get away from it. Had you heard about that, Dave?
No, that does not sound like something I want to hear when we are discussing a robot in my house.
You don't want to be able to overpower the robot in your house?
No, I don't want to have a discussion about needing to be able to overpower the robot. That's what I'm saying. That whole discussion just doesn't sound very good to me.
Do you remember, was it Runaway? Do you remember that film? I think we've talked about it before. The one with Tom Selleck and Gene Simmons and Kirstie Alley.
Yeah. That's a deep reference.
Yeah, that's I feel like that's a very underrated film. And I'm surprised we haven't reviewed that one on here at one point or another. But I think it's a very I think it's a really neat film. And one of the things that's really neat about it is they live in this world of robotics, and they used a lot of practical effects. They made actual animatronics and things like that for the robots. It wasn't CGI. And one of the things that they talk about is basically, like in the police department, Tom Selleck's character is tasked with dealing with runaway robots. And the idea isn't necessarily that it's like anything really nefarious. It's just the idea that they might break down and do things they're not supposed to do. You know what I mean? Right. And so he has to deal with them when that happens. And we would. I think if we had robots all over the place, if literally almost every person had like a Rosie, Rosie the robot from the Jetsons, something like that in their house, some sort of robot that's really able to interact, like do things like cooking, right? If a robot can cook for you, they're going to have some pretty articulated arms and all that kind of stuff. They're going to have the ability to do that. Right. So if the robot does malfunction, which is possible, right? If your Roomba malfunctions, there's not much it can do. A Roomba doesn't have arms, right? So there's not much a Roomba's going to do, your robot vacuum cleaner, because it's just not capable of it. But the more capability you give a robot, and specifically giving them arms, for instance, especially if the arms are able to lift anything significant, which you're going to want, right? I mean, especially if you're elderly, you might need it to actually get packages for you. There's all sorts of things that you would probably want that robot to be able to do. If it malfunctions, right, it could be an issue. If it malfunctions, it could be an issue. There's nothing really nefarious there. It's the same as people that chop off their hand with a circular saw. They just use it improperly. Things happen. Things happen.
Right.
So. Oh, and Asia says she loves that movie. Yeah, it's a good movie. I think it's very underrated. I really like that one. I've seen it a lot. I remember when I first saw it on TV, and I was just like mesmerized, and I was like, wow, this is really neat.
Does
But I've always been into robotics. I've always been into that.
Does anyone remember there was like this movie about robots? It was like a sweet family movie called, I think it was like Heartbeat.
Heartbeat?
Yeah, I think that was the name of it. It was like it's one of those movies I remember seeing as a kid, and it got a lot of coverage in Starlog and stuff back in the day, and then it seems like it's been pretty much forgotten. I was just wondering if anyone else has ever heard of that movie. I think it was called Heartbeat, about the robot. It's like a robot family type thing, and they were like on the run.
Huh.
Maybe I'm remembering something incorrectly.
That actually sounds interesting. I'm not familiar with that one. We'll see if that pops up in the Rogues Gallery. We do have some feedback on your drawing. Asia says, Dave, Venom's jumping off the page. Woot!
Oh, thank you.
Mott says, Asia called dibs last week. I called dibs tonight. Yeah, let's see. Asia mentions, I think, about what we were talking about. She was just saying Isaac Asimov has a whole series on this. You know, Isaac Asimov obviously was really into the idea of robot, intelligent robots, and all that kind of stuff. And of course, he came up with his famous laws of robotics, which are definitely something I think we're going to be having to look into very soon. So
Yeah.
pretty cool stuff, actually, because I think it's cool that we're even talking about it. Howard Hollywood Jackson talks about the Picardinator malfunction. I could see that. Yeah, I think we might have already had the Picardinator malfunction, but I could see that being a problem for humanity. I think it already is, quite frankly. I think it already is. Asia says that Mott's is trying to steal her custom tongue. All right, and Asia says regarding what was it called again, Dave? Heartbeat?
Heartbeat.
She says, yes, Dave Beatty, Adam Ant was in it.
See, I knew I wasn't losing my mind.
And I'm not familiar with either of those things. Hey, Jackie is in the house. She's checking in, saying hi to everybody. Thank you, Jackie, for checking out the show. I'm not sure if you're aware, but we are experimenting with a format change. We're going to be unveiling some new intellectual property, some new characters, new story, created originally by Dave, myself, and Robert McVeigh, my partner at Bad Bob. And we're testing out the technology. This is the second test. This is a different format where Dave is basically drawing with a stylus on a tablet. I'm not sure if you checked in on the show last week or maybe saw the repeat, but the format was different there, where Dave was using a camera and actually inking traditionally, on the page with a marker and everything like that. So if you have any feedback on either format, let us know, especially what you prefer. And that goes for, of course, the rest of you as well, because obviously the drawing is taking shape at this point and looks pretty awesome in my opinion. But let us know which format you think works better. And obviously, one thing you may or may not have noticed, Dave and I briefly talked about it. It does change the actual the scale of the pictures, because what we're doing here is we're sharing the screen as opposed to using a camera. So obviously, like when it's a camera, I'm going to just take this down real quick. Well, I can do this. So when it's a camera, it's like this. So, obviously it'll fill the screen, as much as it can. And for those of you that saw last week, you saw how it was basically just another screen, just like what you're seeing right now. When you share the screen, this is what you get. And so I told Dave, personally, I like this because I think it really showcases the drawing, and that's what you really want to do. But you did see that one unintended consequence was if I share an article, because if I share my screen, then we lose Dave's screen. Whereas we could still keep, with the other format, we could still keep seeing Dave's drawing even while I was sharing an article. So keep those kinds of things in mind. That's the way my mind works. And give us some feedback on what format you prefer. Because that's what this is all about tonight. This is another test run.
Yeah, and the hope is we're going to find something that showcases the art and gives the show kind of a new dimension, but at the same point doesn't really take away from what the show is too, which is hopefully a fun discussion, among
Right.
friends. So,
and again, and Dave, you touched on this as well. It's not like Dave's always going to be drawing. In fact, he might not be actually live drawing all that much, even if at all, because a lot of what we're going to be doing, Dave will already have it prepared, and he's just going to be showing stuff to you. So that's going to be happening a lot more, probably, I think, than actual live drawing. So that's worth mentioning as well. That the format, once it actually, we're doing it, it's going to be a little bit different than what we're actually doing right now. But we're trying to test some things out for if we want to do live drawings and things like that. We want to make sure that we're doing something that is working, that people like. Jackie says, awesome. Looking forward to seeing the new styles. Appreciate that. But Hollywood says, hey, there's no glitter glove tonight. So
yeah, we
lost the glitter glove.
Yeah, well, that's because I'm not having to worry about my my hands' unintentional consequences of overly affecting the paper. So, because that's the deal. The reason you wear the glove, and it is here. It's actually right here. The reason that you wear the glove is to prevent the oil and sediment, whatever in your hand, from getting on the paper and causing the ink or whatever to smear and cause additional issues. So yeah,
well, Asia says Hollywood was wrong for that. He says, because you don't need a power glove to draw. Hollywood does say that he likes this format. We get to see all the details.
Yeah, and that's the thing. You're going to be able to see a higher level of fidelity of the image like this, I would imagine. I mean, it's still not quite what I'm seeing on my end, but it's close. So it is close. It is. I think it. I mean, I think this kind of works. I mean, like I said, I've seen other people drawing stuff like on, YouTube and stuff and whatever. But I just thought this would be kind of fun for the show, and again, like I said, Eric and I really like the idea of combining it with this concept that we've come up with, and I'm really excited for it. I mean, it'll be interesting to see how it all comes together in the end. So,
Asia says she says, I agree. I adore the new format, darlings, meaning she agrees with Hollywood. And then Moss just says, I agree with Hollywood. So they're digging the detail in this format.
Cool.
And then Len just joined us, and he said, no glove, no love.
Oh, that's harsh. That's harsh, Len.
I do have a respect for the traditional way of doing things. I do like it. I mean, I liked it a lot. I don't know, if I can say which one I like more. I was actually pointing out some other things to you folks about what concerns me just in the presentation of the show and things like that. So there's a lot more stuff that I think of besides even just the quality of the image or whatever, which I think is always subjective. I think a lot of people are going to just say, well, I like traditional inking. And other people are going to say, well, digital's better. You know what I mean? And then I understand. I think I understand the what's good and bad about both. So, but I am concerned with the actual presentation of the show, and those things do concern me. That's just the way my mind works. So, Hollywood does say it looks great from my view. And then he also said the Love Glove. I think that's a different show.
That's true. Very true. I kind of had this idea, and I think it's kind of working, but I don't know.
Well, Lynn, I don't know if you saw last week's show. If you saw it on the repeat, I don't think you were in the Rogues Gallery last week, unless you just were observing. But we are asking for opinions here. So if you are able to watch at least a little bit of last week's show, you can see what format we were using then. Again, last week Dave was doing traditional inking. He had an actual camera over the paper. That's part of why he had the glove. And this time he's doing it on a tablet, and we're just trying to get some feedback from people of what they like and see what they think works better for the show, because we do plan to do this in the future, and we want to make sure that we're doing it good, that people like the way we're doing it.
All right, so.
And Asia says, I think it looks epic.
Yeah, I think we're getting close to being done here. I'm just trying to figure out. I'm going to do a little bit of some intense white highlight, and I think this is going to be done. And it's interesting too, because I had no plan for this at all. I think you all saw we started with basically a completely blank screen, and I figured this whole thing out. I'm not looking at any reference or anything. This just totally came just out of my just kind of, imagination. I have drawn Venom before at conventions, but I've never been asked to draw Venom very much. So it's even a character that, while I'm familiar with because I read the comics and I like the character, and I had the Venom toy that had the little backpack that when you push the little buttons, it said, "I'm going to eat your brain," and it made a hissing sound and whatever. I think I've talked about that before on the show. So, I really like the character, and I really like the first movie. I haven't seen the second movie yet, unfortunately, but I hope to see it eventually. But I just really like the character, so this is very much just kind of out of my imagination, what you're seeing, for good or bad. So
Yeah, I also like the effect that you have in the background there. I think that's cool.
I felt like it needed something. It's probably kind of overkill, but talk about Todd McFarlane overkill. But anyhow, the diehard comic fans in the audience got it.
Asia says, like a boss, Dave, like a boss. Incidentally, also, one thing I want to throw out there is if you folks have anything else like pop culture news or something that you want to talk about, you can always just throw it out there. And we won't necessarily know what you're talking about, but if we do, we'll comment on it, and I can always look it up. I can always Google it real quick and see what it is you're talking about. I remember Gap was on here not too long ago, and he brought up a story that I was not going to bring up, although I was aware of it. I just was not going to bring it up myself unless somebody in the Rogues Gallery talked about it, and he did. And we actually had a pretty lively discussion about it. So if you folks do have other things that you want to talk about, while Dave's drawing, you just let me know, and we'll try to delve into it.
And what's interesting too is that for those of you who've been watching this whole time, I actually did follow the various steps that you would do for a comic book illustration. Typically, I started off by doing my initial quick thumbnail where I kind of broke the drawing down. Then I did the pencil stage where I refined the pencils. My pencil stage and my ink stage kind of go together because digitally that's one of the assets or the benefits of working that way. So then what I did then is, kind of penciling, inking. And then once I got the inking done, I flatted the colors. That's where I was putting in all the solid colors. And then I started actually doing the rendering, which is obviously the rest of the coloring stage. But that's typically the way it's broken down, from a thumbnail drawing, pencils, inks, flats, and then final colors, which is what we have right now. Because I think I'm going to call this done. So, oh, wait. No, I think that's good. Yeah, for what it is. So,
well, there you go, folks. What do you think? I'm digging it for sure. I think a lot of the rest of you in the Rogues Gallery are digging it. And then again, also, we are talking about specifically the formats. and which format you prefer. And if you have not
Yeah.
seen the previous episode, check it out in the rerun, and you can always make a comment on whatever platform, whether it's YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, whatever it is, Twitch. If you see the rerun, and then you can let us know comparing the two which you preferred, which you liked. Hey, if you're looking at the rerun, you can even just skip to the end and see how it turned out at the end, and tell us what you think as opposed to this format. So I think there's advantages and disadvantages to both. Honestly, I like them both. I like the traditional, but I also like this. One thing I can definitely say, Dave, on this format that's kind of interesting is, obviously you have the ability to color, I think a lot more easily than if you were, doing the traditional route, right? So that's one thing right off the bat that I can say.
It's easier to do a variation and kind of experiment and pull something together.
So Asia says, "Die, Spider-Man! I'm going to eat your brain." Says maybe the whole Rogue Gallery should go see the Carnage movie together. That would actually be a lot of fun. The only logistical challenge is that Dave lives in Prescott and I live in Scottsdale. So there is a logistical challenge there, but I think that would be fun to go watch a movie with a bunch of people from the Rogues Gallery. What do you think, Dave? I think that would be a lot of fun.
I do. I think it would be a lot of fun. I agree.
Lynn had a comment. He said, "I have been working a lot of nights, so I missed it live, but we'll be checking it out. I always like seeing videos of works in progress, digital or traditional. I came in on this episode a few minutes ago when the glove was mentioned. Going to have to start wearing wrist braces again at night because of my hands these days. Oh, that sucks. Yeah, that sucks if you're having some hand issues and stuff like that. But Lynn, we definitely would love your input. So please let us know if you are able to check out the other episode and compare the two. Your input would be greatly valued for sure. Hollywood says this looks amazing on the 60-inch TV. That's also something that we're curious about is how these things are looking to you, and I appreciate you reminding me of that, Hollywood. So if you're on a particular format, like Asia was on her phone earlier, so if you're in a particular format and you're like, okay, this does look good on my particular device, we do need to know that because that's important too, because not everybody watches these things in the same way, so some people are on their phones, some people are on their laptops, some people are having it on their big screen TVs. So let us know what you're doing and if it looks good. Asia says, I love it. Mott says he lives in Tucson, so we can meet in the middle. Actually, the middle would be Scottsdale, wouldn't it? If we're talking about the middle of Tucson and Prescott, you'd be coming to my town, right? So then that wouldn't be quite fair, would it?
Yeah.
So Greg Diffie, am I pronouncing his name correctly? He's in the house and he says, "What's up, Dave? How you been? It's been a minute, bro. Looks great."
Thank you, Greg. I appreciate that. And I'm doing okay. I think we're all just plugging away, right? Just fighting the good fight and living to make it to the next day.
Appreciate you joining the conversation, Greg. And again, if you have any feedback, and if you're able to, if you haven't seen the previous episode, check it out, and you can always let us know in the comments about which format you prefer, or which or anything specific, concerns, good, bad, whatever it is. And I think we're pretty much caught up there. Again, if you folks have any more feedback, just let us know. We do want to make sure that we're doing this in a way that you folks like, that it's appealing. Again, I will say, just like, it is kind of neat that you're able to do this in color, Dave. That you're able to do that in this amount of time. I mean, that is pretty cool. That definitely is a good.
I was just going to say, and for those of you that you've heard me probably talk previously about Scott Clark, who is a very, very good friend of mine. He passed away several years ago now. Scott is the one who taught me how to do that lightning like that I did in the background. We were experimenting. He had just gotten a Mac, and we were getting ready to start work on Star Gods, this 95, 96, somewhere in there. And he was kind of messing around with it, and he's like, I bet you could do some cool lightning like this. And he was talking about, I think it was Joe Chido is his name. It's one of the colors who worked at Homage back in the day. He's like, yeah, he's did this cool lightning, and he started just kind of doodling around on this Wacom on the screen, and was kind of showing me like the way that they would do it back in the day. And I was like, that's really cool. So if you think the lightning looks cool, and I did it really quick, it's because it's just a couple of simple little things that actually Scott Clark taught me many years ago.
That's very cool. That's very awesome. Nice little tribute to him then. Lynn says it's looking good on my iPhone. We'll probably be checking the last episode out on my laptop tomorrow while I work on a sketch cover. Very cool. Very, very cool. And then Matthew Reed just joined us, and he says, I love it. Thanks, Matt. And I don't know, again, you're one of those people also. I don't know if you've checked out the previous episode at all. And you can even skip to the end, as I said, and you can actually compare the sort of traditional style that we did last week with this more current, digital style. But we appreciate your comment, Matt. And if you are able, or if you did see the previous show, or if you're able to see it, like I said, you can always comment afterwards and let us know, because we are actively looking for feedback. And, Matthew is someone that is familiar with film, so he has that eye as well. So just let us know what you think. He says he will definitely check it out.
Very cool. And last week's episode was fun too, because it was completely different too, because last week's episode, in addition to being traditional, it was Delenn from Babylon 5. So it was completely different subject matter. I mean, Venom is an alien symbiote grafted onto a human's body. Delenn is obviously an alien, but it's just the difference between the two. Delenn is beautiful, right?
Right.
Kind of unearthly, but obviously it was a softer kind of approach, because while she could be incredibly strong, she also sometimes would use her softness too, like all the feminine wiles kind of thing is sometimes the vibe I got from her from time to time. And then Venom is the complete opposite. He's all aggression and teeth and violence and menace, and it's just the two things. Even though one's traditional, one's digital, when you look at the subject matter, they couldn't be any further apart as well. So
yeah, and one's based on a comic book, and the other one's based on a live action TV show, and a real person.
Yeah,
so that's also something that differentiates the two.
One is bombastic, and the other is more dramatic.
Yeah, absolutely. So. And Asia has some good insight here. She says the gallery is full today. Yes, I have noticed that. We have been having a little bit more response than normal, and we appreciate that. We definitely appreciate that. So good on the Rogues Gallery today. We appreciate that.
Yeah, and I greatly appreciate that too. That's kind of what I was hoping. That's why I told Eric. Wondered if we started doing something kind of a little bit more unique with the format, if it might catch people's imaginations a little bit more, and they might be more inclined to check out and see what we're doing. And I'm just glad to see that people are enjoying it.
Yeah, me too. Absolutely. I mean, this is the name of the game. This is what we want. We want to expand the audience. That's what it's all about. We want more of you rogues out there talking to us and giving us your opinions. So Hollywood Jackson said there is a North Haven reunion this weekend. Rumor has it Mr. Strong will be there.
Yeah, that's definitely directed at me. That's pretty cool. I mean, I wish I could be there, Hollywood. I really do. So North Haven is the community I grew up in back in Tennessee. So
there you go.
Hollywood and I have known each other for a very, very, very long time. I think we first were like really good friends, best friends, I think like in second or third grade. And I think we were in Cub Scouts together. Like I've known Hollywood a very, very long time. He's it's one of those things. I'm surprised one of the things nice about technology is the fact that you can reconnect with people, and it's just really kind of neat that he and I are able to still talk and communicate, and I just think it's really cool, and I'm very happy you're here, Hollywood. It's really kind of neat. So, yep,
Yeah,
Hollywood says second grade. That's why I thought it was second grade, but I thought it might have been third, and I was like, no, it wasn't third. It was a second grade. So,
yeah, that's pretty awesome. That is one of the benefits of what I generally call anti-social media. Occasionally, it works the way it's supposed to,
right,
as opposed to the way it actually does. That is very cool because I've done the same thing. It is neat to reconnect with people sometimes. And then Matt mentioned that he likes the idea of the new format change. So Matt, we are actively working actually with Robert. Matthew and Robert are really good friends. We're actively working with Robert on this new IP, this new project that we hope to not only do in comics, but also in film. So we're definitely looking forward to doing that. And he mentions, he says, that is so cool. I have a few friends like that. Yeah, it's neat to be able to connect with somebody that you've known that long. Hollywood says he even still has some of your old drawings from back in the day.
Hollywood was mentioning on one episode, he was talking about, he remembered that first art contest they won, and it was for a clothing outlet called Ashley's, and I drew Airwolf, the helicopter, and I think I drew Jan Michael Vincent's character, um, whose name escapes me at the moment for some weird reason. Um, and I loved that show growing up, and I drew that, and I think my mom actually submitted it. I remember as a kid, I just thought it was so ridiculous. It's like, why is someone? How am I going to win like a contest when I drew Airwolf? Like, aren't you supposed to like draw like animals and paint landscapes and stuff? Like that's in my head, that's what I thought. And I won, and I got it was a gift certificate for a bunch of clothing. And I remember I went in there, and I'm big into baseball. I don't watch it as much as I used to, but I loved baseball back in the day, and so I got like all these like baseball T-shirts for all these different teams, and it was really kind of neat.
That's pretty cool. That's very, very cool.
Not that I don't know. I don't know what relevance it has to what we're talking about, but there you go.
Well, Lynn says, I would love to see Dave post some of those old drawings, especially any from grade school.
Oh, I did actually a couple years ago. I did actually post one of my high school English papers, because we were doing we were supposed to do a report on, I think it was Roald Dahl had the story, Lamb to the Slaughter. I think it was a Roald Dahl story. Maybe I'm confused. And it's about this woman who murders her husband, and she chops him up and then feeds him to the detectives, and who come investigating his murder. And I probably have that wrong. Maybe it's not Roald Dahl, but anyhow, we had to do this English paper report on it, and I wanted to do something different and make it more entertaining for myself, and so I actually drew an entire Batman comic book, and it is crudely drawn, and I drew an entire Batman comic book. So the general gist of it is Batman is like kind of following up with the detectives, like kind of like walking behind them, like they've already been there, and it's already happened, like they've already consumed her husband, right?
Yeah.
And Batman is trying to figure it out, and then Batman mistakenly points the finger at her husband's partner, and turns out like he was like a cop or something. Anyhow, it's this long. I'm getting way long-winded in this, but anyhow, it was an English paper, but I turned it into a Batman comic book, and I did it with the old school dip pens that you dip in the ink.
Yeah.
Like it took forever to do, and then I threw in other Batman elements just because I wanted to, but it's a really weird thing because it's like a Killing Joke style Batman driving a '60s Batmobile, and Dr. Fate makes an appearance for no reason, and I don't explain it. Like it's just kind of a weird thing. But I got an A on it for originality.
There you go.
Which is
there you go. That's pretty cool.
Win, I guess.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's very cool.
I
Dig
have
it.
to show that. I'll scan it.
There you go.
Cool. All right. Well, unless anyone else in the Rogue Sky have any other comments, or if you have another, do you have another story you want to cover, Eric, or you think we're
No,
probably
I
looking like
covered
we're
the
good?
stuff in the description, so
Okay,
I'm good
good.
as far as that goes. Asia does say she can't wait to watch the IP come alive. That's obviously what this is all about. So we are very anxious to bring that to you, and hopefully we're going to be able to do that very soon. We'll be able to start unveiling some of this stuff. And then Asia also says she's got her Rogue shirt, so a new selfie is pending. We really appreciate that, and actually a great idea. If any of you do get some Rogues, any of our retro Rogue shirts or stuff like that, definitely send us your pictures and stuff like that. We can share them on the air. That would be kind of fun. So
Yeah, I'm hoping actually to print that shirt for Asia this weekend. So,
that'll be awesome.
um, and then Lynn says, and Asia, we do greatly appreciate your support. Thank you very much. Um, Lynn also says, I always liked getting to draw my book reports back in school. I did too. And I would draw any book report I could so I didn't have to write it. I was and that was the thing with that English report. We weren't supposed to do it like that, but I did it like that because I didn't want to write it. So it's more fun to draw it.
Yeah, I remember. I can't remember what grades, but I remember being really young, and you would have that like option where you would be able to draw your book report. And I actually got
Yeah.
fairly decent at the Peanuts characters because I used to do Peanuts books all the time. We had a bunch of Peanuts. I don't know why. We had a bunch of Peanuts books in my childhood library growing up. And I always liked the Peanuts. I always liked Charlie Brown and all that stuff. And I actually got pretty decent at that. I actually got decent enough. This is a long time ago. I can't do it anymore. I got decent enough that actually there were kids that would ask me to do theirs for them. You know what I mean? Because it was like, I know you can draw Charlie Brown pretty good. So, but that was a long time ago. And Asia suggests that
I
we should call that segment Dave's Closet of Memories.
yeah. Cool. All right. Do we think that's good? Unless anyone else has any other comments.
No, I think we're good. We're over the hour and a half
Okay,
mark, so I
cool.
think we're pretty good.
Yeah, cool. All right. And one of the things I like about this too, which is kind of silly, but this pen has an end on it that's magnetic, and it actually clicks or clips to the Surface Pro. And I always love doing that because whenever I clip it to it, I feel like I'm done. And just so you all can see, I thought I would actually show you. So this is the Surface Pro right here. The screen is lit up, but this is what I've been drawing on. This is the size of the Surface Pro itself. So you can see it's not small, but it's not a giant Cintiq screen or whatever you see certain people drawing either. And I do tons of work on this thing because it's so portable. So I can just throw it in my bag. I have a messenger bag. Some people have seen it before, but I have a messenger bag I take with me pretty much everywhere I go. And then in that messenger bag, I have my Surface Pro. But then I also have an actual regular sketch pad, and then regular drawing pencils and some pens as well. And that way, no matter where I am, I can either pull things up and show someone, or I can sit down and create something entirely from scratch. A lot of the different day jobs and places that I've worked, that's how I've done a lot of the stuff that I've done, including now I don't work there anymore. I can talk about this. So one of the things that people in Northern Arizona see pretty regularly is the Yavapai College Rough Rider. He's their mascot. And I have drawn that character at my previous day job doing everything under the sun. And these Yavapai Rough Rider characters are everywhere. They're putting them on vans, they're putting them on signs, they're all over their website. They have banners for their different departments, whether it's aviation, he's dressed as an aviator. If you're in the welding department, he's dressed like a welder. If you're an auto mechanic guy, he's dressed like an auto mechanic guy. Anyhow, so it's it was a really kind of fun project, and I did all of those on my Surface Pro.
That's cool. That's very, very cool. Yeah, Lynn says that Scott's, am I pronouncing it right? Wacom said back during the Star Gods could have
Wacom
doubled
or
as a
Wacom, yeah.
TV tray.
Yeah, that thing was huge. It was gigantic. It was absolutely gigantic. I remember when he was setting it all up, I was just like, this is ridiculous. Like, I'm going to get exhausted going from one side of the screen to the other. So,
Cool stuff.
all right, very cool. All right, well, I want to thank everyone, for commenting and watching, and I really appreciate all the positive comment and the positive feedback, on the drawing. Whenever I do this, I mean, I've been doing it for a long time, but I am nervous, and I greatly, greatly appreciate all the positive things that everyone had to say. And I hope you all enjoyed it. And as Eric's been saying, we're going to continue to do this. We're going to be doing more of this. And we're hoping to be able to create something really neat and kind of special for all of you who enjoy the show. So I want to thank you for watching or hopefully listening to this. Well, you can't really listen. I haven't put any of these episodes up as a podcast because, me drawing doesn't sound like very great audio entertainment. So there's not been a lot of audio shows recently, but I'll go ahead and say it anyway. I want to thank you both for watching or listening to this episode of the Retro Rogues Live. Again, my name is Dave Beatty. I have been one of your hosts for nearly the last 30 years. I'm just goofing up. I'm just going to shut up. Anyhow, if you want to check out what I work on a lot of these days, you can go to my website. It's kirbytees.com. It's KRBYTS.com. KRYBS. You don't have to spell it. You guys can read it. I usually spell it for the audio show. Anyhow, you can go over there, check out what we've got going on. We've got Sarah Aerosmith, Brains Are Magic shirt, which is really great. We've got the Janimals collaboration between he and I. The Skeletor shirt, which is really awesome. I like it. Got two versions. You got one that's got Castle Grayskull and one without Castle Grayskull. But definitely go there and check out what we've got going over there at KirbyTees.com. Maybe even consider purchasing a Retro Rogues Live t-shirt for yourself and supporting the show as Asia has graciously done. We greatly appreciate your support, Asia. But anyhow, I want to thank you again for watching. And Eric, please tell all these wonderful folks watching at home where they can learn more about you on the interwebs.
I'm most active on Twitter. You can reach me there at BassGod14. That's at BASSGOD14. My DMs are open, and I do take suggestions for things to cover on the show, whether it be involving collectibles, pop culture news, streaming wars. That's all the type of stuff that we cover on the show. And we will continue to talk about some of those things on the show, especially stuff that you folks in the Rogues Gallery want to talk about. So just let me know. That's also the official YouTube. That's also the official Twitch. So if you comment on those platforms, more likely than not, I'm going to be the one responding to you. So Hollywood, of course, wants his Picardinator shirt. So yeah, we'll work on that one, Hollywood. Lynn says the video and audio was good. We appreciate that. Hollywood also says, great show, guys. Matthew Reed says, have a great night, gentlemen. Always enjoy seeing you and enjoying the show. Thank you very much, Matt. We appreciate your support. And Asia says, good show, darlings. Super fun tonight, even with my drive in between. And with that, we'll go ahead and leave Asia with the last word.